For more, let's bring in our international affairs editor, Armen Georgian, who's following this story for us. Armen, talk us through the protests and the potential unrest planned against the army there this Friday.
Well, the protests that we're expecting later today were called by the junta in response to ECOWAS's decision to impose sanctions on Mali. So that decision that you mentioned from last weekend. And so these are sanctions, essentially protests against those sanctions. But of course, the junta is using this idea of getting everybody to rally around the flag and as a way of really shoring up its own position, which has been pretty fragile in the sense that there's obviously been opposition to the junta's decision to postpone elections and to backslide on the whole democratic transition. So now the junta is saying all Malians must come together and show their opposition to ECOWAS. So essentially, the tactic is pretty obvious. The junta is basically saying everyone has to rally around to oppose ECOWAS. We, the junta, are the defenders of the national interest, and anyone who dissents from that is unpatriotic and siding with external enemies. That's really what the junta is doing here as a tactic that's pretty obvious. And of course, in that kind of rhetorical climate, it is difficult to agree with ECOWAS. So those voices that are critical of the junta, particularly the Network Exchange, which is a forum of about a dozen political groups, the Forum of Exchange has certainly not supported ECOWAS's decision because it doesn't want the economy to get even worse, for living standards to drop and so forth. But it has said that the junta bears sole responsibility for ECOWAS's sanctions move.
So, Armen, the Malian leadership is trying to sound tough, but if we look at the wider region, the ruling generals there are actually somewhat isolated.
Well, certainly the sanctions are likely to have quite a significant economic impact on Mali. Out of ECOWAS's 15 members, 5 of them, if we look at a map, actually have land borders with Mali. That's to say Senegal, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Ivory Coast. So the fact that trade has been suspended, that trade obviously flows across land borders, which are now closed. We also have Mali being frozen out of regional markets because ultimately goods flow not just into ECOWAS countries, but then onwards to other countries in the region. So the consequences for Mali are potentially very serious. We've got the prospect of Mali being frozen out of regional financial markets as well, with the caveat that Guinea, which was also suspended from ECOWAS because of a coup, that 800-kilometer border does remain open for now, and Guinea says that it will remain open to, quote, brotherly countries, unquote. But generally, Mali now is in a much weaker position. Yes, one does sometimes hear the argument that Mali still has support in the UN Security Council from Russia and China. But the key thing, really, I think, are these regional economic dynamics with which China and Russia is not as closely involved in a way as those countries that have now imposed sanctions on Mali.
Okay, Armen Georgian, our international affairs editor, thank you very much.